Good morning, everybody, and welcome. Once again, we take time to read and then reflect upon the gospel of the day. A reading from the Gospel of St. Luke. Jesus said to the crowds, "To what shall I compare the people of this generation? What are they like? They are like children who sit in the marketplace and call to one another, 'We played the flute for you, but you did not dance. We sang a dirge, but you did not weep.' For John the Baptist came neither eating nor drinking, and you said he is possessed by a demon. The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and you said, 'Look, he's a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners.' But wisdom is vindicated by all her children." The Gospel of the Lord. In reflecting on this gospel, it came to mind that my experience going back is that I'm never satisfied. And I wonder if we all share that to some degree. That as a young person, always looking ahead, anticipating, looking for something that's going to make a difference. The goal of whatever it may be will satisfy me. And then when I arrive at that goal, if I do, there's always something else I'm looking for. I remember somewhere around 14 or 15 thinking getting a driver's license, you had to wait to 18. And as I mentioned sometime before, looking back, we didn't even have a car in the family. But that was a sign of independence, of maturity, I guess, being 18. And then it came. I had a car, family car. But there was other things. Have to look forward, some of them more serious. What about college? Not so much for my generation, but for today's people. What about job? We're going to get married, going to settle down, going to have children. And they're all, in their own way, important goals and important to work for. But there's always that temptation of saying, when I get there, wherever there is, I will have arrived. I'll find security. I'll find happiness. I'll find completion. And it doesn't work. Those things that I arrive at and work for, they're worthwhile. But if I don't stop and reflect, at least somewhere, sometime, and ask, what am I doing? Or maybe even more important, the question of, why am I doing this? Why am I looking for whatever, security, accomplishments, notoriety, applause, whatever it may be? And if I don't take time to reflect and ask, I keep jumping ahead. I'm like rummaging through a pile, throwing things out, trying them on, moving on. And I think that's kind of what the gospel is hinting at. That as I get to a certain point in life, and I'm not sure where that is, I become wise. Wisdom often is the result of mistakes, and at the same time, learning from them. There's nothing magical in making wrong choices or making mistakes. But it's certainly tragic if I don't learn, if I don't grow, if I don't make an effort to change when that's necessary. And that requires me to take quiet time to reflect. We might say prayer, but any kind of reflection where there's silence, where I focus on what my experience has been that day or that week or that year or maybe in my life. And I find mistakes. I find what I'm looking for. And as I get older in life, and those of you who marry and have family, perhaps you know it even better. that all that is important, all that is valuable are gifts, that people I love and who love me are gifts. Whatever talents I may have that people find useful, helpful in some way, it's a gift. Hopefully I've developed it, but I didn't create it. And it might just start to dawn on me in my wisdom years, after all the false starts, that I'm not the center, that it's not my responsibility to make things happen so much as to take what is mine, to take what I experience and learn from it. I'm so caught up in the dualism of life or the world or the culture in which I live. You're either right or you're wrong, you've made it or you're a loser. There's no gradation. Everything has to be the way I think it should be. Everything has to come to resolution, and nothing really does. We find ourselves growing in wisdom by understanding my job is not to pick the right formula and become successful, often at the expense of others, but rather to find out what my purpose is. And if I'm a person of faith, that requires me to ask the question, what is it God wants? What is it that He's revealed to me that kind of makes sense out of what the world is saying? And Jesus makes it eminently clear, even in the gospel, that some are comparing John the Baptist, and he doesn't make it. And some then compare Jesus, and he doesn't make it. And Jesus says, in a sense, it's a continuum. It's a constant growth. And the basic commandment that Jesus gives all of us is when he sums up all of his teaching in the laws and said we must learn to love. Love unconditionally. Learn to love the way we've been loved. Not just by God directly, although that happens, but more often than not, as I look back, how I've been loved by others and how I've tried to love others. Imperfect. Having learned a formula, all I learn is its gift. And my responsibility is to keep it together, have it all focused and rooted in Jesus' presence in the world, in my life, in the people with whom I come into contact. And when I find that out, then I find out wisdom. I find out purpose. I find out that I'm never going to be perfect, that my responsibility is not to arrive at formula or definition that is absolutely right, but to discover a way of life rooted in love, in which I experience God day in and day out, from within and from without. That's the challenge. Nothing is satisfactory in and of itself. Almost everything that's worthwhile is gift. My responsibility is to learn to accept and to use it well. And perhaps the biggest is in loving, to learn that love is a gift, that it's offered. My responsibility is not to earn it, but to accept it and to respond with generosity and with understanding and with compassion. To love others to the best of my ability with my limitations, the way I've experienced God's love in my life. And that, I find, is impossible unless I stop and reflect, unless I learn, unless I develop a relationship with God, prayer, if you will, where not only do I tell him what my needs are, but I listen. I listen through my experiences in life. I listen to his words. I listen to what resonates through my experiences in my life, that I really do know, if I'm wise, that I need to learn to trust. And when I look back in prayer, I see the pattern, I see the presence, and most often and always, I see that God never abandons but is always there with his love. I hope your day is safe and that we continue to pray for one another. God bless.